everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer today. Happy Tuesday. Hope your week is off to a good start. This is going to be an early peek at this incoming new moon in Virgo. I'm calling this Healing from Within. If you're new to my channel and you like my content, make sure you click the bell button below so you're alerted as to when we have new videos coming out on the channel. We're here pretty much almost every other day, Tuesday, Thursdays, live readings on Fridays, and astro weather on Sundays with all kinds of stuff in between. Please do consider joining my memberships or donating if you guys like my content and you get anything from it. Remember that sharing is caring, so don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. All right, so we've got a new moon that's going to be coming in. Some of you guys are watching this and you're like, wait, isn't it the full moon? Yeah, but I'm early. And I've got some other stuff that I'm going to be putting out this week anyway. And you know, what's funny, it's like, it's almost as if a lot of these same topics just keep coming up. You guys are going to see that there is a very strong tie to this current Mercury retrograde cycle with this particular new moon. So on September 14th, 2023, we're going to be seeing that we have a new moon in the sign of Virgo. This will be taking place at 6:39 p.m. Pacific time, which means it'll be 9:36 p.m. Eastern time. Obviously, adjust your time zones depending on where you are. I'm here in Texas on Central Time, so it'll be right around 8:39 for me. This will be a new moon taking place at 21 degrees. And so that degree has connections with Sagittarius. It is about foreign travel, foreign affairs. It's about learning, colleges, anything in regards to legal or like global matters, because it has like a Jupiterian kind of signature to it. And I want to read to you guys first the Sabian symbol for 21 degrees of Sag, and then we're going to take a look at some of the themes revolving around this particular new moon. Those of you guys who don't already have the Sabian Symbols book, it's a great book to have as like a companion for taking a look at lunations or even natal aspects. You guys can find all my recommended reading on my Amazon link below if you guys click the link in the description. All right, so we're going to be reading 22 degrees of Virgo because it's 21 degrees and change. So once again, this might sound a little familiar. Can anybody recognize why this is a familiar degree? Those of you guys who are handy with your ephemeruses or you recognize this particular degree. This is the same degree in which Mercury just recently began its retrograde at. So it keeps coming up for some significant reason. Let's find out why. So this is page 202. We're going to be reading 22 degrees of Virgo. It's called the Royal Coat of Arms, and the keyword is prerogative. The theme is the rights of privilege. The symbol speaks to the fact that there is a reason and purpose for everything that exists. The image of a royal coat of arms symbolizes authority, certification, and dramatizes the dignity to be found in following the traditions and customs that have been established by the elders and wise men of any society. The symbol also emphasizes inherited stewardship and the right to regulate and enforce the observance of those social rituals that have strengthened under to preserve a group's highest values and ideals. At its highest, it represents the ability to solidify group unity and help others recognize a common purpose. Watch for abuse of authority, manipulation, or the use of devious means for controlling the unsuspecting and gullible. The accent is on inherited rights and privileges. Some group may assert their authority or pull rank based off of their seniority. Your greatest advantage lies in observing precedent and following established tradition. Be sensitive to the needs of others and maintain their dignity. Guard against abusing privilege or violating social morals. Changing the rules or criticizing the way others have been doing things could meet with strong resistance and be resented. Stepping stones is heritage, tradition, lineage, rulership, prerogative, privilege, license, right, authority, certification, stewardship, tradition, integrity, honor, and group unity. So, you know, this particular degree, for that to keep coming back up, right? New moons represent that time in the lunar cycle where the sun and the moon come into conjunction, which is the strongest aspect that we see in astrology. Basically setting us up for a new cycle for the next 28 days, but also over the next 6 months when this eventually becomes a full moon in Virgo. Now, when a planet retrogrades on a degree, it brings up the importance of that particular degree, and it's almost like being reworked or reimagined or reviewed in some capacity. So Mercury is the ruler of this particular lunation. I think about Virgo being mutable earth. So it is changeable, right? It has the ability to kind of sort and sift through things and initiate, change that's being made possible once we get into Libra. I also think about how it has connections to Mercury and the fact that Mercury is actually getting ready to station right around the time that this particular new moon is taking place. So if you look at this, Mercury is also in the same sign, so it's very strong in Virgo, but it will not be going direct until closer to the 15th. So the next day we're going to see Mercury go direct, and generally when a planet turns retrograde or it turns direct, there's some theme revolving around that particular planet that becomes like more so clear or visible. Now, some of you guys are watching this at the end of August, so you've got a couple of weeks to kind of prepare for this new moon. In general, new moons is when we want to set new intentions, right? We want to make a list of all of the things that we want to be working on over the better part of the next 2 to 4 weeks. And eventually we will get to another new moon, which is going to complete this 28-day cycle. Well, the next new moon that we're going to have is going to be a solar eclipse. So just as a heads up, the next 2 lunations, both the new moon that's taking place in Virgo and the full moon in Aries, are the last 2 lunations we're going to have before we have some very, very big energy that gets ushered in October. It's an aspect to Uranus. We've got its ruler retrograde, it's stationing, and there's a number of different aspects that it's making to outer planets, which I also think is quite interesting. There is a rather loose grand Earth trine that's taking place. And so with trines, we see harmonious energy flow, and all of those elements, all of those signs in the same element are kind of harmonizing and working together. So this is actually a very powerful new moon. It's great for initiating change. It's great also for really getting clear about what your purpose is. And I'm going to give you guys a number of different ways to be able to kind of work through this as we go through today's demonstration. If you guys stay to the end, I'll take you all the way through the 12 rising signs, and I'll pull tarot and also make recommendations and predictions for what is likely to be coming up during this particular new moon. Now, those of you guys who don't know, Virgo is the 6th sign of the zodiac, and it has connections naturally to the 6th house. And so this is themes like health, habits, pets, our office space, productivity, organization, and acts of service. So the service industry is definitely going to be something that's going to be highlighted, especially considering Mercury is business. Just one way that I'm seeing this playing out in the world, it's kind of hard not to notice this, that the service industry seems to either be on the up and up and like know something that the general public doesn't know, or they have been informed that there's getting ready to be some kind of changes revolving around their industries. Getting word that, grocery stores, restaurants and businesses that are connected to hospitality, hotels and other businesses as such are all returning to wearing masks and talking about the importance of this for health, safety, and regulations. I live in central Texas, but just south of me, there's also several schools. Mercury rules education. It's connected to Gemini and Virgo. And I'm wondering if this is like a reevaluation or a returning back or reassessing, whether or not there's going to be changes also going on with health and education. So that's how this is already kind of showing up for me, how I'm seeing it out in the world. It's going to be interesting because this is a degree that's going to get triggered a couple times. So not only will Mercury go direct just after this on the 15th, but then we're going to see Mercury come into conjunction with this particular degree. So if you really want to get technical, we could go back and look at the transits that have been taking place since Mercury was at 21 degrees when it began its retrograde. So you want to think about what was going on August 22nd through about August 27th. So that 5-day period while Mercury was kind of sitting at that 21 degrees for an extended period of time. So whatever you've been rethinking, reworking, reorganizing, returning to, fixing, cleaning up, likely you're going to see that this is going to be a huge focus really until Mercury returns to this degree, even after the new moon. So this is really potent for setting intentions and giving you a lot of time and also energy, especially mental energy, revolving around working out these things. Now, you may not be a Virgo, sun, moon, or rising, but you definitely have Virgo represented in your horoscope. So you want to take a look at which house Virgo is in. This is the area of your life in which you're going to be setting the intentions. Mercury is in the same, house, and it's been there for a couple weeks now. So you already have a little bit of an idea of what you're reworking. And yeah, we'll take it through the 12 signs in just a second. Now, in particular, a Virgo new moon brings themes and energies associated with that particular sign. So we're going to see there's a focus on details, being practical, being organized, and using our analytical skills as well. And so probably the biggest thing that comes to mind for me is practicality when I think about Virgo. Because they are one of the more practical signs of the zodiac. That's what the earth signs are really known for, but especially Virgo with its connection to Mercury. So during a new moon in Virgo, we're encouraged to assess life from a more practical standpoint, really asking yourself what needs to be improved, what daily routines and habits could be more efficient, and is it time to kind of focus on the nitty-gritty details in your life, right? So that's why we need Virgos. You guys are really helpful. Or if you have a really strong Virgo signature or a sixth house signature, there's always like a focus of details whenever you're communicating with them, or maybe they work as like an analyst, or they might work in health or in wellness, or even in things revolving around like assisting other people. So, really great assistants and people who also are great at organizing and like cleaning things up, or helping manage groups of people. These are kind of like mercurial themes that you see with Virgo. Obviously, health and wellness is going to be a theme as well. And Virgo is a sign that's associated with well-being. So this new moon can prompt you to take a closer look at your physical and your mental health. And it's an excellent time to start new health routines or address any existing health concerns that you may have, to make positive changes in your diet or your health or exercise regimen. I think for a lot of us, this is something that we're really reviewing. We're looking at, am I being productive? Am I eating well? Am I making time for the things that I need? I spoke a lot in my Mercury retrograde video talking about how we have the Sun and also Mercury in opposition with Saturn and Neptune. Especially if you're watching this at the end of August, we just came off of like a Sun-Saturn opposition. So I think health has definitely been on our minds, how that affects our daily routine and also our work schedule, because the sixth house can be about work. And so we watch that Mercury retrograde dance in opposition to both of these planets, and it might kind of feel like we're in limbo. I really kind of see like the 6th and the 12th houses as limbo, because these are kind of transitionary houses in the zodiac. And it does talk about where we're almost more or less like getting our own things in order before we approach other people. I'm always quick to remind my clients that the 6th house in general is kind of like getting ready to go out on a date, right? You fix your hair, your makeup, you're making sure that, everything's ironed and put together and you look presentable before you go into the 7th house and you meet with other people. So this particular new moon can be, in a way, for many of us, even if it's not in your 6th house, like, what do I need to get in control of? Like, what do I need to organize better? What do I need to fix or tweak? And there's a lot of supporting energy, not only from this new moon, but also from the retrograde, because Mercury is making several trines to insightful Jupiter. So it's about helping us go deeper when it comes to living a much more fulfilling life, right? Jupiter and Taurus, having better resources, having healthier food, also feeling solid when it comes to what we know or what we believe in. Jupiter can be about beliefs and philosophy. So, you kind of have that baked into this particular new moon. So it really pays to be informed. I think that's what this Mercury retrograde is about. It also pays to be willing to do the work. So if you know that you need to be better about certain habits or routines, definitely a new moon in Virgo can help you set those intentions, and you'll have a lot of support from the cosmos really all the way up until the time that Mercury trines Pluto in this next month, to really kind of get into a consistent routine. I personally have been using this to kind of build up my home remedy like arsenal. I've been, looking at all kinds of natural treatments and remedies and balms and supplements, and getting everything kind of like stocked up and making sure I have what I need for really between now and the end of the year. So I've been using it quite literally. It's been in my 12th house, but I've been using it that way to kind of like listen to my intuition to better kind of guide, the process of me building what I need to have like a healthier kind of mind, body, spirit balance. And I think that that's really important because Virgo does talk about and really touch on our physical habits versus Pisces, or like this Neptunian energy, which can be more about our emotional, our spiritual, our psychological kind of health, so finding that balance between the two and how one can strongly influence the other. Now, I love this for organization because Virgo is known for organizational skills. So this new moon is really encouraging us to declutter our physical and our mental space because organization comes under the guise of Mercury. It's about kind of taking things apart and like putting things in better position and tweaking them and fixing them and kind of putting them back together. So I see definitely a lot more strength with this being, I think, in Virgo rather than Gemini, because Gemini can talk about it, it can break it down in a mental sense, but Virgo is going to be the one that's actually going to put it back together. So if you're looking to really not only make change in your life, but be able to be more so consistent with it, or be reorganizing something so it's more efficient, I think with the trines to Jupiter and Pluto, there's definitely a lot of stability in this particular new moon. So I think the intentions that are set to reorganize a workspace, or even, your home is definitely going to probably stick a little bit longer. I can also see this as, bringing thoughts into better order, having more clarity when it comes to expressing how we feel or what we think. That definitely comes under the guise of organization, especially mentally, or putting our thoughts into action. That could be another way of looking at it. Virgo also deals with service and helping other people, right? That's what it's known for. It's here to be the healer, the herbalist, the veterinarian, the nurse, the caretaker. So I think that this can be about how we're being of service in general. Now, this really comes down to which particular house this new moon is taking place in. But it can inspire you to find new ways to be of service in your community or within your personal relationships. Acts of kindness and helping others can be particularly rewarding during this time, and also extremely beneficial and helpful. I think about the trines to Jupiter and Uranus and the opportunity for many of us to say, hey, I'm willing to help a person or a group in need, and the assistance and the support that actually can come from that. And it may not necessarily be in paid form. Although those of you guys who are looking for a new job, I think with some of these trines to Jupiter, you may be able to find it. It might be about developing new skills or changing your schedule to do that. But it might be that the payment comes in the form of other ways. I mean, Jupiter and Uranus and Taurus might be a barter or an exchange. It might be, well, I don't have the cash for a haircut, but I can exchange another service. It may also potentially be people really reorganizing and rethinking the way that they're looking at health and what they're willing to invest into. And that can be about making tweaks to your diet and what you're eating or what you know about food, to be able to better boost and support your habits and your immune system. I think a lot of these immune system issues are stemming from the fact that Saturn is a suppressant, and Saturn is in Pisces, which is the sign that deals with the immune system. It also has connections to the feet and the emotional body, but definitely these oppositions, I think, to Saturn and Neptune are trying to help us think about more practical ways that we can either help others or help ourselves, so we're not feeling so kind of like lost in everything else that's going on in the world. Analytical thinking is a big theme because of the connection to Mercury and because it is a planet that is about communication and intellect. So this is a new moon that definitely favors analytical thinking and problem solving. Okay, this is why I really rely on my Virgo friends. They're really great for giving advice and critiquing, and they're also more than willing to tackle intellectual challenges and engage in activities that require attention to detail. So if you've been feeling spread a little thin, or that it's been hard for you to pay attention, or you're not really entirely too sure where to direct your energy, this can be that energy that really kind of allows us to set intentions to be able to kind of gather together and get stuff done, take care of business, or finally kind of tackle that to-do list that we've been meaning to take care of. I definitely think that there are themes that are going to be coming up revolving around critiquing and self-improvement. And a lot of that's because of Virgo's critical nature. So, it can be constructive when directed towards self-improvement. We want to use this new moon to strengthen, our abilities and be honest with some of our weaknesses, and give us the opportunity to work on skills or habits that can help us become the better version of ourselves. So that's where it gets kind of tricky, right? Like Mercury, when it's in Virgo, it definitely can be very critical, but I also think about this and I think about the trines to Jupiter and Uranus, and where the willingness to be able to make changes, make physical changes, financial changes, and being optimistic about that particular change is like the key. You're going to get a lot further with honey than you are with vinegar. And we can feel a little discouraged as well because Mercury is retrograde. So there can be this sense of kind of getting down on ourselves sometimes and being like, why can't I get this right? Why is it not sticking? Part of it could be the opposition to Neptune, but I think part of it is also the fact that Mercury is not firing on all cylinders when we have a Mercury retrograde. So in a way, I think this particular moon is indicating that we actually have to go back in order to reflect on things, come up with like a better system, figure out what is and is not working before we move forward. And Mercury is also going to be behind the sun during this particular new moon. So that kind of has like a Neptunian vibe to it as well, revolving around meditating, kind of reflecting and maybe taking time to better kind of redirect some of our physical or our mental energies. Work and career is a theme. I mean, for those of you guys who want to set new professional goals, or you want to make plans to advance your career, or even seek new job opportunities, if you're dissatisfied with the current situation, this is a wonderful time to consider doing that. I think that's kind of been in the skies for some time, especially watching, Pluto go in and out of Capricorn earlier this year. There's still a lot of change on the horizon. I could definitely see some people deciding to enter into the service industry or be making tweaks to their schedule if they want to find ways to learn new skills or pick up like a part-time job or something that could bring them some extra money because of the trines to both Jupiter as well as Uranus. And then obviously, this is also going to bring up themes revolving around routine and, your habits and how you form your habits. And that's something that I've been kind of marinating on this Virgo season so far, because Virgo is all about creating efficient routines and habits. So, this new moon is ideal for establishing new habits and breaking from old ones, like completely leaving some old habits in the dust. Many times new moons do represent kind of a fresh start, a clean slate. So if you feel like you've been reflecting on what hasn't been working, this is the time where you want to go, okay, how do I start something completely different, something new? I personally like to start new intentions or like new physical or health habits right around new moons, because I know that it's just working naturally with the energy of the cosmos, and it's much more likely to stick, and you can really use the better part of like the next 2 to 4 weeks to see how well that manifests for you. So if you're listening to this at the end of August and you're like, oh, I want to start a new job, or I want to join the gym, or I want to start a new habit, or I want to kick an old one, I would really recommend like hanging out with this particular Mercury retrograde first. And when you have some more harmonious aspects with the moon, whether it's when the moon hits around 28 degrees and it trines Pluto later that day, or you wait until the moon is in, another particular sign. I'll give you guys a couple recommendations. I would actually really wait until either right around the new moon or just after to set intentions, because I think this Mercury being retrograde at the time of the new moon really wants us to continue to be reworking something behind the scenes until we're really ready to kind of launch it. So I'll show you guys a couple election dates when I'm done. And this is all about making, positive changes in our life. So, this is giving us energy and the opportunity to be more determined to implement some of these new habits. And then finally, I think this is also earthly concerns, because Mercury is in an earth sign, the sun and the moon are in an earth sign, bringing attention to physical, material, practical matters. So it can be a good time to be focusing on a budget or saving or coming up with a plan for your financial future. There might be more themes revolving around possessions, resources, and security. This can all be taking center stage. Job security, right? Mercury retrograde in Virgo. Security revolving around healthcare and access to healthcare, and professionals and people who can kind of help take care of you. I think that that's going to be just like a really big theme out in the world. I think we're going to be hearing over the immediate next 2 to 4 weeks about, what people are going to have access to. I'll just kind of leave it at that, but that's definitely going to be a huge talking point. I'm also going to be continuing to kind of monitor and see what's going on with, other businesses and whether or not there's changes going on with their working hours or with their staff, or any kind of health protective measures that they're potentially taking, because I have a hunch that when Mercury comes back to this degree, there's going to be more clarity. And when it does return to this degree, it's also finally going to make that trine to Uranus, which it failed to do. We saw Mercury turn retrograde at 21 degrees of Virgo, just shy of a 23-degree trine to Uranus. So, Mercury was held back from being able to release some kind of information. So likely when we have a Mercury retrograde, there is some information that's getting ready to be released, or some, data information that's dropped, or there is some new scheduling, or something new that generally comes out relating to the sign that it's retrograding in. Now this brings me to the aspects. And so there's a number of really interesting ones. I think probably the biggest one for me is that this is a new moon that is in direct connection to Uranus. Okay, so the strongest aspect that we see during this moon is the trine to Uranus, and it's about 1 degree if you want to get specific, because this is 2257, this is 2158. So a 1 degree trine is pretty strong. We also see that this is that same degree that's getting activated in which Mercury turned retrograde. And like I said, Mercury is the ruler, and it's going to be stationing direct the following afternoon on the 15th. So, this new moon just days, later is going to keep on kicking. I think Mercury going direct is going to bring some kind of information regarding this stuff. It's also as the sun is coming into an opposition with Neptune, which can represent some kind of clarity or misunderstanding or some kind of fogginess or getting lost in the details of our health, our habits, our work, and our daily routine, and concerns revolving around clarity from Neptunian types of people out in the world. So it can be a day where you're looking for guidance and details, and somebody can't give it to you, or you're wanting to get in and see a doctor or a healthcare provider. And there is some misunderstanding, and there isn't a lot of clarity about when you can go, how you can go. In particular, Neptune and Pisces deals with private places like mental institutions, prisons, camps, hospitals, private spaces in general. That opposition will be at 26 degrees. So I think it's going to be a lot of confusion revolving around stability and security, whether that's financially or food-wise, or preparedness with physical materials when it comes to health and well-being. Now, Mercury's retrograde, it's stationing, so that means that it's going to be staying at this particular degree. So we've got the degree in which the Mercury shadow began. Okay, so the Mercury retrograde ends at 8. And then we've got 21 degrees, which is the degree that the Mercury retrograde began at. Now, these two particular degrees keep coming up. Let's read 8 degrees of Virgo. Eight, yeah, okay. Is it gonna? I think it's going to be exactly. Is it going to be 8 or 9? Let's see. I think it's exactly 8, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So we're going to read exactly 8. Okay. So Virgo 8, first dancing instruction. Keyword is assistance. The theme is learning how to do it. The symbol speaks to self-perfection and learning through instruction. It also speaks to the importance of being able to function in a broad variety of social situations. The image of dancing first instruction alludes to coordination, poise, and gracefulness and flexibility as the skills necessary for successfully handling any situation when the going gets rough. It also emphasizes the importance of encouragement. The only way to begin is to begin. Any beginning requires a willingness to risk failure and try again. The first attempt doesn't succeed. The key is mastery, is practice, feedback, adjustment, determination, or refusal to give up. At its highest, the symbol represents cooperation, competence, and extraordinary talent for finessing the desired outcome in every difficult situation. The negative is codependency and willingness to accept less than desired status quo rather than risk going it alone. The accent is on self-perfection and learning through trial and error. Encouragement is the key to achievement. Your greatest advantage lies in finding the right teacher and putting in the time and effort to reach your goal. Be willing to accept constructive criticism. Admit your mistakes and correct them. Guard against giving up too soon or telling yourself less than your best is okay. Be careful not to step on someone's toes by trying to lead when you should be following. Stepping stones are self-perfection, refinement of skills, education, mentorship, learning, practice, rhythm, maneuvering, cooperation, assistance, demonstration, coordination. I really resonate with this, man. I have a difficult time with mutable, just anything. I'm like all fixed and cardinal in my chart. And so when planets go through the mutable signs, I really try to pay attention to what's going on in the world, and I try to practice being flexible. And I think that this particular retrograde, having seen, Mercury make several tries to Jupiter, has had me constantly going back to the drawing board and asking for somebody else's opinion, or asking for somebody else to give me feedback or give me their advice, or, some kind of sense of direction. I know that can be hard with all of these planets in Virgo, but I really recommend that if you don't know something, have the willingness right now to go and find a professional, right? If you want to learn more about budgeting, go and talk to somebody who can help you set up a budget. If you want to learn more about investing, or, handling your wealth, or, bringing in more money, go and talk to somebody who knows what they're doing. Be willing to make the investment, Jupiter and Taurus, to, work with the right person. I think that that's the key. I definitely feel like moving forward, it'll be interesting to see what happens when Mercury re-triggers this degree. Let's see. So it looks like that's going to be when Mercury comes back to 21. So that's going to be right around September 29th. So just make a note on September 29th. This is when Mercury is, number one, it's leaving shadow. Okay, so we're finally going to come out of the Mercury retrograde shadow. But what I'm waiting for is when we get to the 30th, when Mercury leaves shadow and trines Uranus. Okay. Obviously that's going to be after the Aries full moon. We're kind of getting a little bit later there. For me, I'm waiting for this sweet spot. Okay, this is what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for when the moon is exalted and it comes into conjunction with Jupiter and Uranus, and it starts trining Mercury. Okay, so this is going to be on October 2nd. This is a bit of like a grab bag. It's a little sweet and it's a little salty. So having the moon in conjunction to Jupiter is definitely like expansive and abundant. Granted, Jupiter will be retrograde. Having the moon conjunct Uranus is kind of shocking and it's surprising, but we have an exalted moon and it'll be in a trine to Mercury, and Mercury is also building in a trine to Pluto. This Earth trine for me feels very productive. Like it feels like that could be a time where whatever you've been kind of wrestling and working out, and like what intentions you've been setting, especially since mid-September, this might be like 2 weeks later when you're like, okay, now we're good to go. Keep in mind that it's going to work new moon to new moon. So until we get to the solar eclipse that's going to be in mid-October in Libra, we're still within that same kind of like lunar month. There's other stuff going on in the skies. Venus is going to square Uranus, which is kind of like hectic. We're going to be seeing Mars coming into conjunction with the South Node. But I do feel like it pays to be prepared, and there can be a lot of getting prepared in some capacity really between now and early October. But that might be a time when you're like feeling more like, okay, I know what I'm doing and I'm in the swing of it. It's been a couple of weeks now since you've set your new moon intentions, and this might be like the test to see if you like really pass getting things in order. You're also going to see that Mercury is going to separate from Neptune, and you're going to pick up a trine from the moon. And this is going to be in the PM hours. Where I am, it's around 5:30 p.m. Central Time. So what is that? 6:30-ish p.m. Eastern Time, and it's going to be 3:30 p.m. Pacific Time. So this trine here in the evening is probably just me personally, like when I'm going to start like launching some stuff, because I feel like there's been enough time after this new moon to get some things going. This is general, obviously, you know, when you're working with like election astrology, you got to really know your own personal horoscope. And once again, you can also work with once Mercury comes back to 21 degrees. So you may have to give it until about the 29th, but more or less about 2 weeks after this new moon, and then you can really work with this energy. I keep thinking about also how not only is Mercury the ruler retrograde, but we kind of see Mercury still in a slight opposition to Saturn. It's a 6-degree opposition, but it's there, which represents like not knowing what direction to go in. You know, Mercury, when it's in Virgo, it wants to schedule things, it wants to make plans, it wants to get everything in order, get some kind of work done, go into the office, you know, be like connecting with people, and being of service. And so when Mercury's retrograde, you know, we're having a difficult time getting that stuff done. And when it's in opposition to Saturn, it's almost like we're waiting for somebody to give us the green light to do something. And we're not getting that, we're not getting that green light. We're not getting clarity. So for me, it's materialized as me being like, okay, you know, is it a good time to be planning, you know, future courses? And I keep feeling intuitively, no, just wait until, you know, give it a little bit of time before you kind of book some of that stuff or set some of those things in stone. For you, it might be, oh, I'm wanting to, you know, book travel for the end of the year for the holidays to go back and visit your family. And you're like, ooh, is it a good time to do that given what's going on in the world? Mercury does rule over travel, not just, you know, business and communication, but vehicles and contracts and negotiations. And so there's a lot of things that might feel that they're being put on hold right now, and you're not getting the answers that you want. But a lot of that is because Mercury retrograde is saying it's time to go within. You don't need to go without, go within. And even Saturn retrograde, you know, in Pisces, a Neptunian sign, is also about turning within, not seeking, you know, other people's approval or waiting for somebody else to tell you you can. It's stop waiting on other people, you know, stop putting things on the back burner. Start focusing on what you can do, what you can get done today. And maybe it's about looking at things going, okay, if I make these little tweaks on a daily basis, eventually I'll be able to accomplish this goal, you know, next month. So not getting overwhelmed with all the details, which I definitely think can happen with Mercury retrograde in Virgo. I think that, yes, you know, Mercury retrograde, devil's in the details, right? But by the same token, the trine to Jupiter, I think, is saying, think about the big picture. You know, it's not what you can or cannot do right now. It's where do you want to be in 6 months? And that's really what I keep thinking about in the back of my mind. I think about how, you know, Mercury is making a number of trines to Jupiter throughout this Mercury retrograde. We're going to see that, you know, Mercury will come into eventually an opposition with Neptune and a trine with Uranus. So once this Mercury retrograde is over, we're going to see, well, first of all, we're going to see Mercury trine Jupiter. So let's just start there really quick. So Mercury is going to trine Jupiter here. There's one on September 5th. And then there's going to be another one here, it looks like, on September 25th. So these two particular days, these two trines, are when you're going to have some kind of good news, some kind of insight, okay? But then Mercury is going to keep moving forward. It's going to trine Uranus. So we're finally going to have that sudden, unexpected breakthrough news somewhere around the 30th, and then it's going to oppose Neptune. And that's like miscommunication, misunderstanding, not getting a lot of clarity, like what direction are we going in, like something is getting lost in translation. I think that we can be so much better prepared for other people not knowing what direction they're going in, or other people spinning out about some of the narratives you're going to hear on the news about health and wellness, or about changes going on at work, that the one thing that's going to keep you grounded is consistency in your routine. And like, that's what this new moon is going to be about. And so like I said about not getting overwhelmed with what you can't do right now, but where you want to be in 6 months, it really kind of takes the pressure off of everything needs to happen at one time. And then it allows you to kind of drop into that mental, analytical, grounded, practical state of Mercury in Virgo, which is, If that's the goal, what do we need to be doing every month until we get to this point? Let's make a list, right? And that's actually going to help you, I think, be better prepared, especially when we look at how this new moon is going to turn into what will be a full moon in 6 months' time. Okay, so to show you guys, here's the new moon in Virgo, Mercury retrograde. 6 months from now, this will become a full moon in Virgo. And this is when you're going to see, like, I think more or less like the full effects of the intentions and the things that are being set now, right? So here's the full moon, and this will be on February 24th, 2024. We have a super conjunction. I haven't seen anybody talking about this yet, but I've kind of touched on it a couple times in my videos. We're going to have a super conjunction of Mercury, Sun, and Saturn in Pisces in February of 24. It'll all be at 9 degrees. Just after this full moon. Okay, so here's a full moon in Virgo, ruled by Mercury. And where is Mercury? Mercury's in its fall in Pisces, in the opposite sign, where it's having a difficult time communicating because it's in a Neptunian sign, so it's more psychic and emotional and hidden and sensitive. And we're going to see Mercury in conjunction to the Sun and also Saturn. Oof. This is going to be some interesting energy because when we break this down, and this will make more sense when I show you what's going to come just after this full moon. Okay, so like think about this. Right now, as you're watching this at the end of August, we're about to have a full moon in Pisces. That full moon is in conjunction to Saturn. Okay, so we're feeling things get limited. You guys are hearing all the fear evolving around like lockdowns and travel restrictions, limitations, and this and that. Okay, so we've got a full moon in Virgo 6 months from now, and it's with the moon in opposition to a Mercury, Sun, Saturn conjunction. It's the same thing. It's basically saying 6 months from now, if you guys are watching this in like August, September of 2023, in February of 2024, it is the same energy, and it is saying that it is almost like completing. It's getting stronger, it's getting bigger, it's getting more global, right? Pisces. So this is that super conjunction that I was looking at. Kind of jumping around in my notes a little bit, but that's okay. So when this becomes a full moon on the 24th, that into the 28th is when we're going to see this triple conjunction. And I'm not going to talk about it too much until we get closer. But you're going to see Mercury will cazimi. This will be on February 28th, 2024. Okay, so I'm going to make some like far out future predictions here so you guys can remember you heard it here first. Around this day, like plus or minus a couple days on each side. When we have this Mercury cazimi, where Mercury is in its fall in Pisces in conjunction to the Sun, and then it's going to conjunct Saturn, it's basically saying like there's some kind of, I don't like saying suspicious. I think it's suspicious, but there's some kind of limitation, okay? And this will also be at 9 degrees. 9 deals with international travel. It deals with colleges. It deals with philosophy. It can deal with law. It can deal with airplanes. Now I'm kind of curious what the Sabian symbol for this is going to be. But I guess what I'm getting at is when this completes, right? When we get to this full moon in Virgo and we see these transits around the end of February, there's going to be limitation. Okay, so Pisces 10, an aviator in the clouds, observation. The theme is global perspective. The symbol speaks to rising above the limitations in an eye-to-eye problem, solving, viewing things from a higher, more holistic point of view. The image of an aviator in the clouds emphasizes imagination, exploration, curiosity. The implication here in this degree refers to a creative or abstract thinking in the development or testing a new idea. At its highest, the symbol represents broad mindfulness, exceptional scope of vision, and the ability to foresee or plan something for future needs. Watch for head in the clouds, impracticality, aloofness, or rejection of social responsibility. The accent is on perspective. What seems to be true at first glance may not be when all factors are taken into consideration. Your greatest advantage lies in distancing yourself from a problem or a situation in order to take a more objective view. Look at the whole picture. Find the pattern in things and events. Guard against losing touch with what's going on by isolating yourself or living in a dream world. Don't get trapped in your own mind and blind yourself to the obvious. Stepping stones, transcendent, exploration, perspective, overview, circumstance, observation, vision, long-range planning, domination, going beyond, rising above the viewpoint, outlook, or abstract thinking. Something that really piqued my interest here. A higher and more holistic point of view. Okay. You know, when this happens, we're seeing the North Node come into conjunction with Chiron. We're going to be healing, you know, personal wounds. South Node's going to conjunct the Moon, so people are going to be feeling like they're having to release or lose something. Saturn is that boundary. You know, Saturn is limitation. In Pisces, I think it could be about people who are directing people, who are connected to healing, medicine, law, or mysticism. The sun can be careers revolving around these fields. So people who are getting more involved in international law, people who are getting more involved in international rules or limitations, leaders talking more about borders, but requirements. Mercury, Saturn is you must do, you must show. Mercury could be documents in order to what? 9 degrees to fly. I'm just going off the astrology, guys. Something about this makes me feel like come about February, March 2024, there's going to be new travel requirements. There's going to be new documents or proof that you have to show. Or when you think about, I mean, literally, like an aviator, what is it? Where is it? An aviator in the clouds, an eye-to-eye problem solving, viewing things from a higher perspective. Is it going to be stuff in regards to data and the clouds and privacy? Are they going to start scanning people's eyeballs to get on planes? I mean, like, I know that sounds weird, but sometimes this stuff is literal, right? But guard against losing touch with what's going on by isolating yourself and living in a dream world. Don't get trapped in your own mindset or blind yourself to the obvious. Because there's a lot of that going on. So to prevent some of this stuff from potentially happening, I mean, I think, you know, all in all, what I love about astrology, where my practice differs from some other people, is that I believe in free will, as should you. I think that's really important, because if we didn't have that, people would spiral and feel like they have no control. You know, the stars, they impel us, they don't compel us. You guys have the ability to create change. You're here to supersede some of your astrological placements. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but like some of the things that are starting right now are going to come home to roost in about 6 months. And if we're not talking about solutions, practical solutions, being more analytical, we're going to have bigger fish to fry, right? Pun intended, Pisces. Once we get into that full moon in Pisces season next year, and we're going to be feeling like there is limitations. Now, Mercury in Pisces could be healthcare advisors, hospitals, mental health professionals, doctors. You know, I happen to listen to a lot of people who have been silenced over the last few years in talking about their studies and, you know, some of the trials that they've been having and the findings that they have had. And so I'm wondering, are we going to see more of that? That is my concern. Just as a citizen, I'm concerned about the fact that there has been this kind of like slow and steady breakdown of some of these more Virgo, mercurial type of businesses or roles, right? Seeing fast food companies that are like rolling out stuff where like robots are now making your food. Pretty soon you can't get a cup of coffee that's going to be made by a human. We're also going to be seeing that there's going to be more surveillance and more going on with productivity, especially now that we're seeing implementation of AI. So those who are working that aren't replaced by robots might be under more kind of pressed circumstances when it comes to assessing their productivity compared to other employees. I think about teachers who have been taking it in the shorts for a long time, and they're educators, and that's Mercury. I think about the mental health epidemic that we're experiencing after the events of the last couple of years, and the fact that a full moon in Pisces, a full moon in Virgo with Mercury, Saturn, and the sun conjunct is really going to be showing where like we're having major issues with people when it comes to their mental health. So we have to be talking about things now. We have to be talking about not what we can fix right now, but what steps we can take forward to create bigger change as we're getting into 2024. And it's about that mind, body, spirit balance, right? You can't have Virgo without Pisces and vice versa. So we're going through the practical kind of motions now, but really by the time we get to next year, we want to see that that's bettering our mental health, our spiritual practice, that it's allowing us to be able to gather and worship, right? Pisces, or, allowing us to send our kids to college and feel good about it and not be feeling like we're being forced because they're having to kind of, comply with like mandates. I think that that's something else that we're going to see just with that conjunction alone, that, it may persuade some people not to go and achieve higher levels of education if they're feeling like there are certain expectations that kind of come from that, unfortunately. All right, so, I also think about how the new moon is in conjunct the North Node, which is a pretty powerful aspect, dare I say, invisible. Do you guys have, in conjunctions in your natal chart? Have you kind of seen them as such? I have my sun and my moon that are in conjunct, quincunx each other. And I keep finding that it like ping pongs. I go like really deep into like the Aries moon, and then that doesn't really give the credit to the Scorpio sun, and then it kind of goes back and forth. So it's constantly like representing like this like itch that can never quite get scratched, or I think in this case a blind spot. So when we see a new moon in Virgo in an inconjunct, it's a funky angle that basically does not recognize each other. And so this is kicking off this lunar cycle with this aspect. So if the new moon is about setting intention, starting fresh, planting new seeds for development, the North Node, on the other hand, it's representing our life path and our destiny, the direction that we're going in right now, and the experiences that we're meant to have to embrace, to better develop who we are on a soul level, right? So when we see this aspect, number one, key is awareness. The best way to work with inconjuncts or quincunxes or with interceptions, I think it can be kind of similar. Awareness is everything. You have to know that this is in the skies right now, that there are some things that we do not see that we could be doing better. And recognize that there can be conflict between our immediate desires, new moon, and our long-term path for growth, North Node. Being aware of this tension can help make more conscious decisions and choices. So if that new moon is all about health and wellness, and that North Node in Aries is about our bodies, our independence, our freedom, our action, our desires, our personal needs, how are we showing up for that right now? What are we doing to be better about working on those things? Now, inconjuncts do require us to make adjustments. That's part of what this is all about. It requires us to adjust and also to adapt. So we may need to modify our plans, okay? So modification is a huge theme. What do we need to be willing to change right now to better align more harmoniously with the North Node and our life's purpose, all right? And so like, look, the inconjunct between Virgo and Aries is like seeing some hard aspects between Mars and Mercury. Mars says, I want it right now, do it right now. And Mercury's like, hold on, slow down, let's talk about this. Like, let's come up with a plan. And Mars is like, no, get to it. So we can't rush the process. We can't rush the healing. It's going to take time. And in order to do that, we have to really be digging deep and kind of integrating with this Mercury retrograde and kind of coming up with a plan to be able to be where we want to be next year, right? I talk about the full moon that we're going to see next year that's going to be in Virgo. And then I think about the, the season that we're going to have in Aries. Mars is going to go through Aries. We're going to have a new moon, a solar eclipse there that's going to be in conjunction to Chiron. There's some shift happening in the spring next year. And so we're going to come face to face with needing to finally heal some of our own personal wounds and issues. But also I think of that North Node Chiron conjunction about the willingness to be the oddball, to be the person who stands up and kind of goes against the grain, even if they have to go at it alone, right? That's that Sabian symbol that keeps coming up over and over in that Mercury retrograde. And balance is a huge theme here as well, seeking balance between pursuing new beginnings, new moon, and also honoring our soul's journey and the direction of where we're supposed to be going. And so this is where I've said healing is not linear. It is messy, okay? It's across the board. It's like looking at like one of those damn like charts or graphs and you're just like overwhelmed looking at it. Like, eventually you will get to the end goal of being able to complete the healing. But it's not going to be in an organized fashion. And so some of us might get kind of agitated, being like, I don't have time to be, scheduling this doctor's appointment, or I don't have the time to go to the gym, or, this is annoying that I have to, work a little bit harder at this problem. But I think that the key here is about making the adjustments and, and kind of just rolling with the punches, It's not about choosing one over the other. And that's what some people kind of feel with the quincunx. I think this is about finding ways to integrate both of them. And then obviously self-reflection, right? Because we do that closer to the time that we get to the full moon. So that'll be in Aries. And definitely we're going to be doing that because that's going to be the completion from the solar eclipse we had in the spring. But this will be used as an opportunity for introspection. So, because of this in conjunct, we're going to be considering, how new intentions relate to our life purpose and whether or not they support or hinder our growth in the long run, which I think we're doing through the Mercury retrograde. So right around the time that Mercury is coming back to this degree, it's no longer in conjunct the North Node, we're going to be probably doing a little bit better. And that'll be after it trines Uranus as well. So many signs in the cosmos are saying, like, take your time, slow down. We really need to sit with this pretty much until the better part of about the beginning of October. And then we're going to be able to kind of take some necessary steps forward. It does take 21 days to make or break a habit. So if you want to set those intentions during the new moon, you can. Just give yourself until early October to really see that that's kind of sticking. I love the trine to Uranus because I feel like it's bringing us opportunities for electrifying new beginnings. Okay, lots of aspects to Uranus. Even the solar eclipse that we're going to have in October is going to aspect Uranus. So we've got a trine here. Trines are harmonious and they're friendly. And when we combine, a new moon, which is grounded, stable, practical Virgo, right, with the innovative and potentially disruptive influence of Uranus, we can see some wild stuff. Not all trines are created equal. There is such a thing as too much of a good thing. That would be like a Jupiter trine. Trines are the energy of Jupiter, but there can be such thing as like too much of a crazy thing or a chaotic thing or a erratic thing that can happen with Uranus trines. I think about efficiency and change, right? Putting those two kind of themes of Virgo and Taurus together. Because Virgo is about precision and organization and practicality, and that's going to be fusing with that 120-degree aspect to Uranus, bringing an element of surprise and change to these Virgo qualities. It suggests that, changes or innovations made in your daily work or routines or health practices, if willing to make these changes, it can actually go a lot more smoothly than you think. So I found myself saying this throughout this retrograde, being like, I didn't think I was going to like this, or like, I didn't think this was going to, move so efficiently, or I didn't realize I could do this, or I didn't know that. So that element of surprise, I think, is really important with Uranus, and kind of staying on our toes a little bit. Yeah, especially when it comes to, the fact that we're actually willing to do the work and make the change. We might realize that the changes that we're making can help us be, more efficient in some areas, especially when it comes to work, health, or technology. Grounded in innovation, right? Virgo and Uranus. So this trine can be about innovations relating to resources, values, and stability, because Taurus is an earth sign and it focuses on practicality and groundedness. So when the trine from this new moon comes through, it can suggest that any changes or innovations that you introduce now are likely going to be well thought out and practical. And it's an excellent time to embrace new methods or technologies in your daily life, work, or routine that can bring you more stability or security. Adapting to change, right? That's definitely a theme here. Setting intentions about how we approach change, and if we're open to it. Yes, unexpected changes can happen, and you guys might notice that a lot over the next month because it's setting the stage for 28 days. But the trine aspect generally implies that these changes are more easily integrated and accepted. So you might find it a little bit easier to adopt some of these new habits. So if you've been really wanting to make a change, Uranus and Taurus is like the change in your diet, the change in your eating habits, the change in your electrical or gadget uses even, the willingness to kind of reconnect or do more work maybe with the element of earth. For so many people, you know, these oppositions to Saturn and Neptune is like, get off your screen, get off your computer, go outside. You know, put your feet in the grass, ground your energy. Uranus and Taurus can be about where frequencies are impacting our physical body and our nervous system, right? Uranus can be the nervous system and where it's kind of getting all kind of funky. So we may find that we need to ground that energy out more, and maybe we're choosing to eat lunch outside. Maybe we're choosing to download a new health app and log how many steps we're taking, right? Or log our productivity or our screen time usage. These things can be really helpful as you're going through this particular new moon. Breaking free is another theme because this aspect does kind of indicate that there's a desire for more freedom and independence in your daily routine or life. So you might be more willing to break free from old constricting patterns and embracing a new or more individual approach to life. Elevated awareness, because Uranus is associated with increased awareness and insight. During this particular new moon, you might gain new insights about your routines or your habits. And it might really help you like analyze and get clear about what is and is not working in your life. And I think there is a lot of room for financial innovation because of the trines to, both Jupiter and Taurus loosely, which are retrograde. So we're reevaluating our values and our resources anyway, but these trines help us gain more clarity and get clear about setting intentions when it comes to buying, spending, possessing, eating things, stuff like that. So you might find innovative ways to manage your finances or maybe discover new investment opportunities, okay? And then probably the final aspect that's worth mentioning is that we do have a slight opposition to Neptune. See how many aspects are being made to outer planets? It's like trine to Jupiter and Uranus. It's 7 degrees from Jupiter, so it does represent abundance. We've got about 6-7 degrees from Pluto, so that's empowering, right? But we've got about 4-ish degrees of an opposition to Neptune. That could be a little bit more difficult. Neptune is obviously in a sign that is polar to this particular new moon. Oppositions are relational, so it can represent your interaction with another person. This can bring conflict between reality and fantasy because the opposition represents like a tug of war or, like a polarity of cases. In this situation, it can be conflict between Virgo's need for precision and practicality and Neptune's inclination to want to dissolve boundaries and embrace the more mystical or dreamy side of life. So you may find it challenging to reconcile your idealistic visions with the need for more clear practical solutions. And you're going to kind of see the back and forth, I think, throughout the retrograde. Confusion and illusion, that goes hand in hand with what I just said, because Neptune can be about confusion and blurring the lines between reality and fantasy. And then we've got, the sun and the moon and Mercury in the opposite sign. So it can lead to misunderstandings, miscommunications, and a general sense of not seeing things very clearly. And while Mercury is retrograde, it's really hard to kind of get that clarity. So I feel like needing to really, do your homework, look at your sources, read the fine print, and really make sure that you're checking in also with your higher self, right? It's behind this new moon before you're setting intentions. But creativity and inspiration can come up because Pisces or Neptune does deal with these topics. And so this can be about gaining clarity about how to complete creative projects in a timely manner. It can really also encourage us to spark our imagination and think outside the box with setting some of our intentions and adding a little touch of creativity and inspiration that might help kind of break up the stuffiness of the practicality, right? And like the routine of Virgo. There can be escape and avoidance issues because Neptune's influence can sometimes lead to a tendency to want to escape reality, right? Rather than wanting to, deal with practical earthly matters. So what's going to be challenging is finding ways to not get stuck in fantasy or daydreaming as a necessary way of kind of like dealing with some of like life's responsibilities. So very much so this new moon in Virgo is like get grounded, get real, get practical, and come up with practical ways being able to move forward. Don't get stuck with your face in the phone. Don't get stuck in, fear of making decisions and kind of like shut down. And I think this opposition can also encourage spiritual exploration So you might be drawn to practices like meditation, yoga, dream analysis, and other spiritual matters that are going to help you find the balance between the mind, the body, and the spirit, right? All right, so here's some ritual ideas before I get into the 12 rising signs. Obviously, Virgo rules the small intestines, the gallbladder, and the nervous system. So these might be areas that you're really focusing on throughout the season if you're somebody who is trying to kind of cleanse, heal, or detox. Virgo placements, Mercury placements are definitely sometimes known for good or bad habits, right? But they can also be known for like nervous tendencies and tummy troubles. Now, in particular, herbs that I like to work with that are connected to Virgo are milk thistle and dandelion. These are the two things that you can be working with the most to help detox, especially let's say you're trying to get off of drinking habits, you're trying to detox your body from processed food, maybe you're trying to get off caffeine. These two particular herbs are really helpful for this, as are reishi mushrooms, holy basil, lemon balm, and dill. So these are all wonderful herbs that you can consider working with. Obviously check in with an herbalist and make sure that you're taking the appropriate amounts. I've just recently, the last like month or so, and like honestly, I have to keep it real, not thrilled about it, but I've been trying to slowly like get off of caffeine and not be drinking as much coffee or like doing energy drinks. And I started doing mushroom coffee, and it's okay. It's definitely helpful. Like I noticed like a change in my energy levels and like my clarity. So it's been really good for me during the Mercury retrograde to try this, but I got one that's like loaded with a bunch of different mushrooms. So that might be something you can consider. Holy basil is also awesome. I mean, to use that when you're starting to get sick. I know some herbalists recommend using it almost like as like a natural antibiotic. And like, who doesn't love dill? I love dill. All right, so if you like crystals, you might consider working with green jade, moss agate, blue tourmaline, and blue lace agate, especially because the agates really encourage you to like relax the mind, breathe better, take time to kind of ground your energy, right? Breath helps ground the body. So if you're getting a little stressed out mentally, those can be some awesome, I guess like crystals that you can work with or you can carry, or if you have some like on a bracelet, that might be something you might want to consider. After all, Virgo is an earth sign. And then for oils, like in a diffuser, or if there's something that you like to kind of like toss into a bath and work with, I like eucalyptus. I like eucalyptus for productivity, so that can be really helpful if you're trying to like stay alert and get stuff done. And I like for incense, frankincense. This can be a wonderful incense to use for cleansing and purging and like cleaning, because rituals connected to that are very Virgo. Now, the tarot card associated with Virgo is the Hermit card. So if you have like an altar space, or you like to, like meditate maybe with one of your tarot cards, that's the card that is associated with Virgo. And some recommendations I would make is, first of all, make a list to set your intentions, okay? And remember that Mercury's behind this new moon. So it's basically saying we need to take time out of our day, out of our stressful lives, to sit for a few minutes and reflect on what we want to set intentions around. Mercury is also at an 8, okay? And it's retrograde. So it's saying, what do we want to change? What do we want to detox? What do we want to clear out? What's no longer working? Start there. Make a list and remember that it's going to be about mind, body, and spirit. Check in with your health and wellness. So it can be as simple as, I'm going and doing a physical, or I'm going getting my teeth cleaned, or I am, returning back to the gym, or I'm cutting something out of my diet. Something like that can be a really helpful way of kicking off this intention with the new moon. And remember that we want to be thinking about where we're going to be in 6 months. Don't get caught up in the details right now. Where do you want to be in 6 months? Start coming up with a plan. Practice self-care. If you're in a good place where you're doing well with that, help somebody else in need, whether that's donating some time, services, food, clothes, money to a service or a group that may potentially be in need that is near and dear to your heart. And find ways to declutter, organize, or tidy up. There is magic in that, okay? Remember, we're getting everything in order before we get to Libra season, where we like meet other people. So this is, I'm not going to say the last chance, but definitely one of the better times to be doing some work revolving around yourself and getting your own things in order before you're meeting up with other people, okay? All right, so that's my recommendations. I will take you guys through the tarot and astrology predictions for each and every one of the 12 signs for this particular new moon. As a reminder, I'm a Western astrologer. This is going to be for whole sign predictions for each of the 12 rising signs. I recommend listening to your rising, followed by your sun and your moon sign. Your rising sign is going to tell you where in your life this new moon is taking place. The sun might relate to your career and your overall health, happiness, and vitality. And the moon sign is going to be more about your emotions or your home or your private life. Now, me personally, I like to use Placidus, but if you listen to whole sign, that's fine. But if you're a Placidus user, you're going to want to listen for which house 21 degrees of Virgo are in. You may have to listen to more than one rising sign. You might have to listen to 2. If you don't know what any of this means, go and check out a chart calculator online. You put in your birth information, your time, date, and location, and then you cast the chart. Look at the 9 o'clock hour, that's your rising sign. Find which house Virgo is in. That particular house is where you're having this new moon. We have a new moon in Virgo this time every year. It comes every 12 months when the sun and moon in Virgo come into conjunction with each other. And if that still doesn't make sense, consider booking a reading with me. You can check out my links below. All right, so this is going to be for the 12 rising signs, and I forgot to say this, but I wanted to throw this in now. Obviously, this is going to be affecting Virgo, sun, moon, and risings the most. So if you happen to be a Virgo, sun, moon, or rising around, let's say 20 to 22 degrees, this is going to be important for you. Followed by 20 to 22 degrees of the mutable signs. So Gemini and Sagittarius and Pisces, you guys are really going to be feeling this as well because there's going to be a square. But if you have a personal planet around Virgo as well, that might happen to be like another planet, this is going to be a new moon in conjunction with that planet. So I would definitely take that into consideration because it can actually have quite an impact on you. We're going to start first with Aries and the Aries rising. How's it going, Aries? I hope you're doing well. This is going to be the new moon taking place in Virgo, and this is in your natal 6th house, which deals with health, wellness, daily routine, being of service, getting things done, your office space. By now, most all of you guys know which house this is, so you've probably seen the Mercury retrograde video. You know that this is about getting things organized in this area. If you are wanting to set new intentions, finding a new job maybe, or maybe you're thinking about getting back to the gym, or if you need some kind of assistance or help, right? Mercury also rules your 3rd house. So fixing cars, fixing gadgets, learning new skills for work, needing to be of service to someone or something. This is also a time that you really want to be paying attention to your health, okay? Because when you have a new moon here, if there's been some stuff that's come up health-wise for you that you need to take care of, this is where you set intentions to take care of those things. I'm really liking the trines that you're seeing between your 10th and your 2nd house, so definitely feels very productive, but you're only going to be as productive as you can be if you're feeling well. So this is about being able to better manage your schedule, making sure that you're taking care of your needs as well as showing up and getting work done. So my recommendation is set intentions for that, and productivity is a huge thing that you want to be focusing on during the time of this new moon. The card that I got for you is the Magician. Cool. Which I think that this is a positive card. I mean, manifestation comes up for me with the Magician, and I think about the trines to Jupiter, and it's like, what kind of a life or schedule, job or routine are you trying to manifest, right? This is about turning your visions into reality, inspiration, willpower, desire, resources, and your ability. So I think maybe you're rethinking what you're capable of doing and realizing that you can get a lot more done than you give yourself credit for, and setting those intentions to be able to make the necessary changes. All right, so good luck with that. All right, next up we have Taurus and Taurus rising. What's going on, Taurus? You have a new moon taking place in the sign of Virgo. This will be in a fellow sister sign. So if you're a Taurus, sun, moon, or rising, anywhere between 20 and 22 degrees, you'll be experiencing a trine. Now the new moon is going to be in your natal 5th house. This is all about children, creativity, taking chances. You've had a Mercury retrograde moving through here, so you've been reworking and rethinking, what chances can I take? What can I do creatively? How can I have more fun? What do I love? Mercury also has connections to your second house of money, so maybe you've been rethinking your investment strategy. Maybe you've been rethinking something about a creative project, or having a review of who or what you love. Definitely, I think with the trines that are happening to Jupiter and Uranus in your first house, there is a lot of like your willingness to change. And when you are evolving and radically transforming who you are, that will also kind of shine through your fifth house of love affairs and adventure, and also like children. And so for a lot of you guys, it can be about reevaluating. Do I want to get back out there and date again? Is a creative project ready to be launched? And it can be about considering or contemplating something in regards to a younger person, like a child, or a romantic partner. Now, I think for you, this is a new moon that you want to take, you want to set intentions revolving around taking chances, risks, because big risks, especially creative risks, can be big rewards. Especially when we see like Mercury come and do a trine with Uranus. So these big risks can be about creative breakthroughs at work. It can also be themes revolving around self-employment, or perhaps even parenting. All right, so let's see what card you get, Taurus. The card that I get for you is the Page of Swords. Well, that's interesting because pages can be younger people. This can be one of the air signs, so it can be a Gemini, a Libra, or an Aquarius that pops in. And pages represent new energy, okay? So Page of Swords, it says witty, communicative, curious, mental energy, alert, curious, chatty, inspired, and it can be about a messenger. So I'm wondering, like, are you trying to find ways to better express yourself creatively? Are you working on a new creative project that requires you to write about something, talk about something, blog something? Is there some kind of reworking of some kind of media? That can definitely be coming up with this card, or it can be messages coming in and you going back and forth with somebody who's asking you, what do you love? How can you be more creative? How can we have more fun? And I think that this is going to be like giving you the opportunity to have a little bit of like banter and back and forth. And it's good for you with these trines to planets in your first house, because it's giving you the opportunity to have an outlet for all of like this new kind of creative and a little fun-loving, wild type energy. Good luck, Taurus. We've got Gemini and Gemini rising. You will be experiencing a new moon in Virgo in your natal fourth house. All right, Gemini, so you are experiencing obviously a lot of mutable energy, and it is squaring you. So this particular new moon, even though it's going to be around 21 degrees, you've also got Mercury also that's kind of squaring your ascendant, and it's all in polarity to your 10th house transit. So it's almost like Gemini rising is smack dab in the middle between home and professional changes. And it might be kind of making you feel a little kind of like your head spinning. But setting new intentions revolving around home, roots, the past, family, where you're living. This is the key right now. It's almost like your chart ruler Mercury is turning retrograde in the fourth house, and you're reevaluating something before you set your intentions. Mercury is looking back at the third house. So I'm wondering, are you moving? Is there some kind of like traveling to go and visit family? Are you going back and forth with a sibling about something? Is there a change perhaps that's going on in the neighborhood, which is prompting you to consider like a change in your home or your residence? Is something moving in or out, or someone moving in or out? These things can be kind of taking place right now. I would say where you have benefit is this new moon is trining Jupiter and Uranus in your 12th. So there is like a lot of faith behind some of the changes that are happening. Some of these changes are happening behind the scenes. People may not see what's going on and what's changing in your private life, but there's definitely physical shifts that are on the horizon. And you're also going to pick up a trine down the road between Mercury and Pluto. And I think that this is about embracing some changes on the home front. Even though it may seem overwhelming right now, it's going to be better for you in the long run physically. The fourth house is also ends of situations. So, you know, there can be a bit of like a back and forth maybe that you're having with a relative, and you're like maybe finally wanting to like put an end to some kind of back and forth that you're having with them. That's the other way that I can look at it. But new moons here are great for setting intentions to move into a new apartment, buy a new house, go and visit a new place that you're considering living. And I definitely think this has a huge impact also on your career. So career changes can be prompting home and family changes, or home and family changes can be prompting you to make a big decision about your work. So they definitely affect each other. All right, so let's take a look here. And I think you're initiating this change because Mercury's retrograde in the fourth. So you may be the one trying to convince people maybe it's time to like rearrange the furniture or to add on a new addition, or, you know, maybe you're going and sussing out a new place and then you're reporting back to like other people about, you know, what the potential new rental or the new city kind of look like. The card that I get for you is the Emperor. Okay, so this can be about a parent, specifically a father figure, which is not unusual when you see retrogrades in the fourth house. Usually the fourth house can be like the dominant parent. So I could see it being like a mother, but the Emperor is generally like either about a husband or like a father or a brother. And the Emperor is also the energy of Mars. And so I think about like Mars being in your fifth house right now, in aspect to your ascendant, and you're motivated to get things done if it's something you're passionate about, if it's something that is about a romantic partner, or if it's about a child, or it's about creativity or having more fun. So you may feel like some of the changes that are going on the home front are, you know, to be able to make some of these things happen. This is about respect, leadership, father figures, divine masculine energy, structure, authority, stability, control, discipline, and focus. So it's going to take a lot of these things, I think, to get some of this stuff done. But ultimately, I think you'll find that the willingness to kind of roll up your sleeves and get some of this stuff done at home is going to lead to you having more stability and security in the long run. Good luck, Gemini. We've got Cancer in Cancer rising. You will be experiencing a new moon in Virgo in your natal third house. This is an interesting one. I mean, you've got, first of all, especially if you're like a 20 to 22 degrees Cancer, Sun, Moon, or Rising, this new moon is going to sextile you. So it is friendly. It's going to be pouring positive energy into your communication house. New moon in the third house can be giving you the opportunity to set new intentions in regards to learning, siblings, vehicles, gadgets, traveling, and contracts. Especially with Mercury retrograde here, I wonder if there is like a lot of you reworking something, you know, editing a negotiation or a contract, or reviewing something that you once learned. Now, Mercury also has connections to your 12th house, so it is also about reevaluating all of the things that you feel like you've been holding back in saying to someone, and now that you're reevaluating like what you have or have not said and need to, it can be totally having like a much more positive effect on like your mental health and the way that you think and that you communicate with other people. I think about how this is an aspect both to Uranus in your 11th and Pluto in your 7th. And so I think what you're reworking or rethinking is how you are with other people, what your goals are when it comes to your friendships and also your relationships, okay? So setting a new intention here can be about being like, I'm going to learn a new skill. I'm trying to find a new car. I'm going to be traveling more often. It can be bringing your attention to all of the details in your day-to-day life and be connecting more maybe with siblings or with other people in your daily routine. I also think about how Mercury retrograde here is like doing this back and forth dance with planets in your 9th house. And so there is a lot of like really getting clear about how to better communicate your belief systems and your philosophy. Maybe you're running around, you're doing a little bit more in your day-to-day, so you might feel like there's just a bunch of errands and things that you kind of have to get done. But the key here is to stay super focused and possibly even more so mentally stimulated. So you might be finding that you're like listening to podcasts or learning new things, or you know, reading new things that are going to help shift your belief system or your philosophy. Okay. Let's see what the cards say for you, Cancer. Oh, of course, you get the moon card. All right, so this is cool because it's a new moon, right? So this is saying like this is brand new, fresh energy, but I think it's about listening to your intuition. I think it's about tapping into being like, I know what I need to say. I know what kind of an email or a letter I need to send off to somebody, like, and really leaning into that and trusting that. The moon can be about what's hidden, subconscious, unseen, the unknown, fears. It's about your intuition, uncertainty, confusion, moving through secrets, and things that can be complex. So it's safe to say, I think with the Mercury retrograde there, that's already happening. And maybe you're tapping into this 12th house energy where you're like, yeah, I know what I need to say. I just don't know when is the right time or exactly how to say it. So this retrograde might have you tapping into dreams, symbolism, tarot readings, like things that are going to give you clarity about how to better navigate or find structure in relaying what it is that you want to relate to another person. And I think that this is also saying because you're ruled by the moon, right, and you have a new moon where there is a conjunction between your chart ruler and your second house ruler, it's about finding the words and letting other people know what it is that you value, what it is that you need, and really being able to communicate very clearly like a healthy sense of self-esteem, right? Good luck, my Cancers. Got Leo and Leo rising. You will be experiencing a new moon in Virgo in your natal second house. This is your house that is all about finances, spending, security, possessions, and self-esteem. So this is when you do your money magic. Okay, this is when you do your abundance work, your intention work, revolving around that. Obviously, Mercury has been retrograding through this part of the sky, so you have maybe been feeling like you're spending less, you're reevaluating what you have, what you need. Maybe there has been a sense of you really changing the way that you look at what your financial goals are, because Mercury is also the ruler of your 11th house. When you have a new moon here on the 15th, you're going to be seeing there's also going to be a trine, on the 14th. There's also going to be a trine that's going to be going down here between the new moon and Uranus. Okay, so it looks like the intentions that you're setting for your finances are stemming from some kind of sudden unexpected change, development, or new growth at work or in your professional life. And it's also picking up some trines also to Pluto in your 6th. So it's almost like reworking of daily routine and habits, some kind of expansion going on professionally, and you are either renegotiating or weighing your options when it comes to what it is that you want financially. Do you value having a regular paycheck, and are you, willing to go back and take a job that's going to give that to you? Or are you willing to take a risk, Uranus in the 10th, and go, I want to work independently, or I'm going to work part-time while I build my business, or I'm going to, make some changes in terms of, what kind of work I'm doing. And so there may be a sense of having to kind of financially plan for that. Maybe you've already kind of been in the midst of that. If you're somebody who hasn't been working, you may return back to work, and the retrograde might actually bring money that's due to you that you need. So it really depends. But I think that with Jupiter and Uranus in your 10th house, many of you guys are in a position where this is only going to continue to grow in terms of your success and your freedom moving forward in your career between now and spring of 2024. I love the earth trines in the earth houses. That's such a great aspect to have. And I think that this is like you really starting to finally maybe see the full financial benefits of some of the risks that you've actually been taking over the better part of like the last 6 months, right? Let's take a look. Let's see what your cards say. The card that I get for you is the Page of Pentacles. So that's a good confirmation. Pages can be earth signs. So Virgos, Tauruses, or Capricorns can pop up throughout this next month-long period. Page of Pentacles is about your manifestations. It's about staying grounded with your ambitions. Somebody offering you a gift, being more goal-oriented, financial opportunities, planning, consistent, loyal, faithful, and this is a message about your money or your resources. So this is positive. It means that something is like a seed is being planted that is going to only continue to grow, right? So when I think about the fact that you're going to have all of these planets in the 8th house next year when we have that full moon, Mercury, Saturn, the sun, I think that's going to be the turning point where you're going to go like, oh, now I'm increasing my rate. Now I'm getting a bigger salary. Now I'm getting better benefits. The hard work and the sacrifice is necessary for you to be able to really bring it home come the beginning of next year, and possibly also not feel so reliant on other people. So whether that's a spouse's income or some kind of financial support or some kind of credit or loans, this is the time where you really want to set intentions revolving around being like, I want to do it. I want to be able to do it myself, and I want to be able to do it without having to owe anybody else in the process. That's what I would be setting my intentions on for this new moon, okay? Good luck to you, my Leos. We've got Virgo and Virgo rising. What's going on, Virgo? First of all, if this is your birthday around a new moon, happy birthday to you. It's a pretty big one, having a new moon on your birthday. It means it's like a fresh start, brand new energy. 20, 21, 22 degrees are going to feel this the most. All right, so new moon in your first house, new moon, new you, with also your ruler in the first house. My goodness. So when you have a new moon in your first house, this is about a clean slate for you personally, setting new intentions for yourself, your body, and your appearance. The sun is really strong when it transits the first house. It's about really kind of focusing on the self and your own goals and desires. And when the moon comes here as well, and it's connected to your 11th house, it's about your goals when it comes to what you hope to achieve. And Mercury is retrograde in your first house right now. So maybe you feel a little bit of like putting your foot in your mouth. Maybe it's hard to communicate with people. Maybe you're healing from something. There can also be a sense of you really reevaluating, what do I want my status to be in the world? Who is in charge? Am I in charge of my future? You know, what am I making happen? Who's listening to what I have to say? Because Mercury has that connection to Gemini. Now, perhaps you're in the season of feeling like some people are needing to be kept at arm's length, or some people are not connecting as well with you, because this energy is coming into opposition with Saturn as well as Neptune in your relationship sector. It's more about you, less about other people, right? I know you're, either going into or just coming out of a full moon in Pisces, and the truth is like you got to see where the chips fall after that lunation, because that full moon conjunct Saturn may feel like potentially or a make or break situation in a relationship, or with a client or a business partner or just a friend. Although, the 7th house is about committed relationships. So if you end up cutting someone or something off, or something comes to its natural kind of, completion point, this new moon is like, okay, how am I readjusting my scales now? Like, where do I stand on my own outside of my relationship with another person? And a lot of that's because this is in opposition to Neptune. Where do you see yourself, your body? What do you look like? What are you doing? Like, where do you want to be in 6 months? I would set these intentions, especially knowing that you're in your birthday season, and that this can be a time where, quite literally, when we come to the full moon that's going to be taking place in Virgo in the February period of 2024, you're going to have Mercury, Saturn, and the Sun all in conjunction in the 7th house. So if you really want a better, healthier, stronger relationship, it could be coming actually for you in the new year, but it's going to be based off of some of the intentions that you set now, and some of the new goals that you set for yourself, and also some of the boundaries that you kind of lay down in the midst of this Mercury retrograde. Looking different, feeling different, having like a complete makeover, a whole glow up over the next 6 months is very possible here. I'm liking the trines to Uranus, which means change might come through travel, change might come through a change in philosophy or education. I'm also liking the trines that we're seeing to Pluto on the flip side, which is basically saying it's what you love, what you're most passionate about, what's going to make you feel the most alive. It's the oppositions to Neptune that's going to get you, and it means that you can't take everybody with you. Not everybody is going to be really clear about the direction forward. It's up to you to be the steward of your own ship, okay? Let's take a look. Let's see what the cards say for you, Virgo. The card that I get for you is the World. It's funny because it's a new moon, but it almost feels like it's like a completion, because you're wrapping stuff up at the end of August, and then by the time you get to like mid-September, it's like, okay, now I'm starting fresh. So perhaps maybe right now you're still in like the wrapping up phase. The World card's a great card. This is about completing something, like karmic lessons coming to completion, fulfilling things, you know, getting some kind of like blessings because you were willing to go through the work. So completion, integration, accomplishment, travel, bigger picture, evolution, fulfillment, harmony, and a sense of belonging. Okay, this is a great card for you. I feel like this is about you learning to look at certain situations and go, it's not that they left me, it's that I chose not to participate in this any longer, you know? And like really reminding yourself that you have the ability to start over. And whether that's in your career, if that's in a relationship, if that's in a, you know, a new place or your belief system, this trine to Jupiter and Uranus is basically saying like shake things up, do something different, and change the way that you look at the world, and not be allowing other people to kind of take you in the wrong directions, okay? Good luck for you, Virgo. I'm excited for this for you. That's a great new moon. We have got Libra and Libra rising. You will be experiencing a new moon that will be taking place in the sign of Virgo. This will be in your natal 12th house, Libra. All right, so Libra, you're getting ready for your birthday season here pretty soon. This is that part of the year where everything's going through your 12th house. There's this natural kind of completion and certain things are kind of wrapping up. You may feel with the new moon in the 12th house, which in itself is already hidden, private, spiritual, but with the Mercury retrograde, that you might be feeling like a little extra squirrely. You might need your space or your sleep a little bit more. You might be really needing some sense of privacy, and just like rest and retreat kind of comes up through the 12th house. Mercury is connected to this new moon, and Mercury is also connected to your 9th house. So a lot of you guys are like wanting to travel, wanting to rest, wanting to go to a retreat center. You're looking for spiritual places that you can practice prayer or study, or, you know, doing some kind of work behind the scenes. This is a time, Libra, where I would really be paying attention. This is kind of like backwards energy. You know, Mars in your first house has you feeling action oriented and ready to go. But it can also make you accident prone. It can also lead to burnout. It can also lead to like aggression and frustration. And then all these planets in the 12th house is kind of like retreating. So I could see you guys being like a little snippy, and then you're like, leave me alone. And then you kind of like go into like your hiding space. So Virgo can be associated with coworkers or your workspace, and the 12th house can be hidden. So if you guys have private offices, studios, places that you're working, you may be retreating there more often and kind of hiding out a little bit. I would use this energy, especially with the trines that you're seeing to Jupiter and Uranus, to focus on some kind of like spiritual practice or routine that's kind of like witchy, you know, like you could work with the trines to Uranus in the 8th house by, you know, setting intention, doing a little earth magic, you know, maybe burning some herbs, you know, doing a meditation, reflecting on something, going to like a healing studio, like doing some Reiki work or doing some like hypnosis. That can be really helpful as well. And I think about the trines also to Pluto in the 4th house, and it's trying to also heal some like long-standing issues within the home, or like family power dynamics that need to come to a natural kind of conclusion or completion. You've got the earth trines happening in what are typically water houses. So there's going to be a lot of physical change that's happening, and it's all about how that impacts you emotionally. Next month, you're going to have a solar eclipse in your 1st house. So it's really important not to run yourself too ragged. You could be feeling a little under the weather. And you could be in a situation with the next new moon solar eclipse that, you know, the south node there, it's really impacting your body. So it's like you need to really get rest and take time to feel like you're recuperating and you're not kind of burning yourself out, okay? Especially with those oppositions to Saturn and Neptune in your 6th house. Yes, Virgo is about being productive, but the 12th house is about also knowing when to sit back and reevaluate and like take the necessary periods of rest until it's time to kind of get back into the swing of things. So for you, you have to learn how to actually unwind. And the 12th house can be also, it can be hospitals or healing places, private places, therapy offices, massage centers, things like that. So if you need that to heal, that can happen. The card they get for you is Strength. which is interesting because this does have connections to the sun. So the sun going through the 12th house is completing something, ending something, right? And it can be about having the strength to say, I'm finally going to put this behind me. I'm finally going to heal this thing. I'm finally going to let it go. The Strength card is connected to self-love and respect, unconditional love, courage, inner strength, influence, compassion, persuasion, and inner stillness. Okay, the card said it, not me. And so I think this is about knowing that in order to be able to heal, you have to be willing to have that time to kind of reflect and like know what it is you need to work on or what actually needs to be released and let go. The sun is shining a light on that. So really take the time, I think, during this new moon to set these intentions, because remember, literally 6 months from now, you're going to have this full moon that's going to be in the axis of the 6th and the 12th house. And if you feel like you've been having habits or patterns or work routines that are not conducive to having a healthy lifestyle, it's all going to come back around in about 6 months' time, okay? Good luck, Libra. We've got Scorpio and Scorpio rising. You will be experiencing a new moon in the sign of Virgo. This will be taking place in your 11th house. And this, especially if you're a Scorpio rising, let's say 20 to 22 degrees, you're going to be experiencing a sextile to your ascendant sun moon, which is harmonious. It's positive for you. All right, so Scorpio, you got a new moon happening in your goals, friends, and network area of your chart. So this is where the parties happen, the networking events happen, you're setting intentions and goals revolving around happiness and joy and everything that you're like really asking from the universe. So this is about like cosmic blessings. Now, Mercury is the ruler and it's here as well. And Mercury has been retrograde, which means you've been re-evaluating some of your friendships, reconnecting maybe with people, especially people that you used to work with. There might be some networking opportunities here. I think of Mercury retrograde in Virgo in your 11th as like, are some of your friends having some work challenges? Are some of your friends having some life challenges? And are you hearing that they're going through some stuff either in their private life or with their romantic partners or with their kids? That's just like there's change going on. So there can be a little bit of back and forth there. Mercury throughout this, new moon is retrograde, but it's getting ready to go direct. But I noticed that it's been in opposition to Saturn in your 5th. So there's a lot of like, what changes are happening with my friends and how does that make me feel? How are my goals changing or shifting when it comes to what I love or what I enjoy doing or my hobbies, my children, my dating life? Not the most challenging energy, to be honest with you. I mean, not only because it sextiles your ascendant, but it's also trining both Jupiter and Uranus in your 7th house. So it looks like you're being really vocal about what your goals are with partners or clients or business partners or spouses. And it also looks like with this trine, slight trine to Pluto, which is your chart ruler, it's about feeling empowered when it comes to communicating and talking about your goals, right? So there's something kind of going on there in regards to that. If you're hoping to join a new group or a club or like a private like meeting space, this would be a wonderful time to do that. So especially if it's going to be like a professional club or something that's going to enhance the likelihood of like meeting other clients. Friends can introduce you to partners and also provide some kind of opportunity when it comes to support with your professional life. So that's also really positive with this as well. But be asking yourself, do I feel like I'm surrounding myself around people who are supporting me and who it is that I want to become? How can my shift in some of my social connections really help improve the direction of where my life is going? And reaching your goals, right? Definitely reaching your goals. Let's see what the cards say for you. The card that I get for you is the Two of Wands. So this is about being like optimistic and open about what the future might hold. I like this for you because I think that this is kind of saying like your goals are still being, like rearranged or they're being defined. You might feel like you're in a state of limbo. But you have a choice. You're focusing on decisions and taking the first steps forward and choosing a new path, future planning, preparing to leave a situation or your comfort zone. but there can be a choice with choose. So it's a lot of, do I stay or do I go? Well, Mercury represents your 8th house of change and transformation. So are you going, do I leave this group or network behind? Do I get rid of this social media account? You know, am I done going back and forth with a friend? Like, am I good here? Can I like leave this be? For the most part, I do see you being supported. So I would say like lean on your communication or connections with other partners to give you some kind of advice. But be mindful that the trines to Pluto mean that your words right now are very powerful. So sit down, set these intentions, write it out, and hold yourself accountable. Tell other people what you're planning on doing. And you'll really see within about 6 months' time, when we have a full moon here, that some kind of goal or dream will come true that you can actually share with some of your friends or some of these kind of networking people that likely is going to be fulfilled. Okay? Good luck, Scorpio. We've got Sag and Sag rising. You are going to be experiencing a new moon in Virgo. This is going to drive me crazy, Sag. So let me move this back for you. I want to make sure it's the right degree. There we go. Okay, so you're going to have a new moon that's going to be in Virgo, and this will be in your natal 10th house, which deals with your career and your public reputation. This is where you set new intentions in regards to these things. So 10th house can be about your role out in society, your role as a parent, how other people see you, bosses see you, things like that. So having a new moon here, especially if you're a Sag sun, moon, or rising between 20 and 22 degrees, you are going to be feeling the square pretty tightly. And like Gemini, you're going to be like the focal point of feeling like you're between a rock and a hard place when it comes to setting new intentions for your career and reputation and the responsibility and themes going on at home. Now, new moon means new intentions. So if you're looking for a new job, getting ready to launch something, want to have a meeting with a superior or a boss, maybe you want to talk or approach a client about something, this is the new moon that you're going to be doing that. Mercury is already retrograde in this part of your chart. So there's already something changing, redirecting, slowing down, or being reevaluated when it comes to either your clients, your public status, or reputation. Mercury also rules relationships. So there can be something that's getting ready to change very publicly about how people see you or perceive you. So you could be going from, being an employee to being a CEO, from being single to being married. Lots of changes in your status and how people see or recognize you. Likely there's some work tweaks or changes going on maybe with how you're working or your work schedule. What I like is that this particular new moon is kind of slightly in a trine to Jupiter, your chart ruler, which is in your 6th house of daily routine. So it's almost like the more that you're on top of health, scheduling, productivity, getting assistance, getting things done, the more that you're going to be able to better navigate whatever this potential professional change out in the world is. Now, we also see that this is trining Uranus. So for many of you guys, part of the Mercury retrograde has been about reworking something, maybe about technology, maybe it's about scheduling, maybe it's about just coworkers and other people in the space and like updating or making innovations to make your job easier. That's kind of like the impression that I'm getting. I think you in particular, I would wait until after this new moon to make any permanent job changes. A retrograde, if you haven't been working, could bring you back to work and you could get a call back after an interview. But those of you guys who are working, the Mercury retrograde and the Jupiter retrograde in the 6th seems to indicate something's about to change about how you're working or the schedule or the location in which you're working in. But for the most part, this is the new moon that we set intentions revolving around how we want to get things done, how we want people to see us. So if you have big plans for career changes or you're just wanting to have a bit more success in these areas, after the new moon and probably right around the time that Mercury is coming back to this degree in trining Uranus, you'll have a better idea of just exactly what kind of changes are going to be taking place and how to actually adapt to them. Let's see what cards you get here, Sag. And I guess this all goes with being said, yes, trines to Pluto are going to definitely affect how you're making money, oppositions to the fourth house has you feeling like, okay, there's all this stuff going on out in the world that I'm responsible for, but how is it impacting me emotionally? How is it impacting my home? So I know this can feel a little overwhelming, but work with the trine to Uranus. Change can be good, whether that's work related or schedule related. The card that I get for you is the Four of Cups, okay, which is about, going back and forth on a matter. It can be about a reevaluation, feeling unfulfilled, missed opportunities, feeling a little, like melancholy. I think for you, it's going to be the oppositions to Neptune, where, quite honestly, if you're one of these Sag risings that's like, I'm making myself go to work, but I don't feel like it. I'm making myself show up and get the job done, even though I know that it's not best for my mental health. I'm putting on my happy face and kind of going and getting things done. This particular card makes me feel like that this new moon is going to make you realize in order to be productive, showing up is great, but you also have to be taking care of some of the core issues that are going on behind the scenes. If you're feeling a bit blue, if you're feeling under the weather, if you're not dealing with an emotional issue, that can inhibit you from being able to be as productive as you would like to be. 6 months from now, you're going to have this full moon that's going to be in opposition to a bunch of planets in the fourth house. So if you want to feel like you can be feeling better, right? If you want to feel like you can also provide better for your home or for your family or have more security when it comes to your private life, the intention set now in regards to what you're willing to take responsibility for is very important. It's going to have a huge impact on both your home and your career down the road next year. The way through this, I think, is about being open about how much you can and cannot take on. And you may be feeling like you don't want to deal with emotions that are coming up right now, but honestly, they're meant to be a guide to kind of teach you how to be able to live your life in a way that is going to have more balance. And so I think the Jupiter Uranus in the 6th house is like, how can you make your life easier? Does it make sense to bring somebody in who, can assist you a couple of days out of the week? Should you be trying a new doctor or a new routine? Does it make sense to hire an assistant for all the loose ends and the things that you're not able to kind of take care of? Is it worth making that investment? I think likely it is, and it's going to help you in the long run find a better work-life balance. Okay? Good luck, Sag. We've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You're going to be having a new moon in Virgo. This will be taking place in a fellow sister sign, and this will be in your natal 9th house. So if you're a Capricorn sun, moon, or rising, 20, 21, 22 degrees, you're going to be feeling a trine, okay? So a new moon in the 9th house is going to all be about setting intentions revolving around your beliefs, legal matters, higher education, something that you're learning, dealing with foreign travel, maybe even publishing. And I like this new moon for you. I feel like this is really quite supportive. Obviously, everybody's benefiting from the earth signs, but the trine eventually that you're going to start to pick up from Pluto is very empowering. So I wonder if this is planting seeds revolving around a shift in your philosophy or your belief system, which proves to you that you can overcome crisis, you can change, you can mature and be the bigger person, you can let certain things go, and that you are powerful and very capable. The 9th house is a positive house. It's about our bigger picture in life. So even if it's not about some of the things that I mentioned, it is about what you believe in, it is about what you're learning, it is about where you travel, but it can be in a mental sense. It doesn't have to be in a physical sense, although sometimes connections with foreigners, teachers, mentors do come up during these particular lunations. Now, if you're wanting to initiate a lawsuit, if you're wanting to start planning a trip, if you're wanting to start the process of applying for college or, writing a novel, you would do that after a new moon in this particular part of the sky. Keep in mind, Mercury is still retrograde, so it means that there is something that has yet to be revealed when it comes to some kind of service maybe or scheduling in the 9th house. So if you are going back and forth with like a legal matter, likely you're waiting for a legal representative or somebody to get back to you about the matter and let you know when court would be or whether or not this looks like it might settle. It is also possible that if you're wanting to plan foreign travel, you're like, I don't really know if this is a good idea, or you know, my schedule is constantly changing, you know, let me wait. Yes, wait on those things. Also, something else I would take into consideration is that, you know, Mercury, as it comes into these similar degrees, it'll start trining Uranus, and it makes me feel like you have the opportunity to have the upper hand, either financially or when it comes to like a creative project, if you just wait until you get that trine on the back end. And then obviously, like I said, everything's gonna, you know, trine to Pluto as well. So these are harmonious aspects. Trines are fancy words for just saying how the planets are communicating. So they're working with you and they're helping you go through some kind of dramatic change. I would recommend also with this new moon, you know, it can be really helpful to check in with a teacher, a mentor, a guru, a guide, a counselor of some kind, to give you direction and how to best kind of navigate bringing some of these intentions to life. Mercury rules your 6th house, so it can also mean that you need to go and talk to a healthcare provider, or you need to go and talk to somebody who can help you with handling a document. So you might need to see like a notary, get something notarized, or you might need to go and schedule, you know, a letter to be certified, like delivered and sent somewhere within like a certain time. That's possible as well. Obviously, all this energy is in opposition to Saturn and Neptune, which can be challenging for you because Saturn rules your chart. So maybe there's like a lot of feeling of waiting to hear back from other people before you can like make a move. So if you've been waiting to kind of hear about getting accepted into a program, or whether or not you're going to be traveling, likely after this particular new moon, and when we start seeing Mercury trine Jupiter, you're going to start to kind of get your answer. Okay. So let's see what the cards say for you, Capricorn. The card that I get for you is the 3 of Wands, which is an excellent card. It is going to be about moving forward and there being like some kind of an adventure. So this is about waiting for your ships to sail in, awaiting your results, decisions to be made, progress, expansion, confidence, new horizons, growth, foresight, and a milestone. So Saturn does not deny, he just delays. And so I think what's going on is like maybe you're waiting to get word about traveling for work, or you're waiting for somebody to kind of give you like the green light on something. And so it is saying that it is going to come in. You're just waiting for it to come in. And likely the new moon is like really about setting your intentions, about believing, I think this is going to work. This is going to go through. It's going to be okay. It's going to turn out better than I imagined. And I think that I would be telling myself that, especially when it comes to something that involves money, or when it comes to something that involves education. These two things might take a little bit longer to settle out, but once they do, you'll realize like, oh, okay, you know, it turned out better than I thought it was going to. Good luck, Capricorn. And so we've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. What's going on, guys? You're going to be experiencing a new moon that will be taking place in Virgo in your natal 8th house right here. All right, so a new moon in the 8th house is interesting because the 8th house, it's where it's more difficult for the sun to shine. Okay, so you've got the sun and the moon coming together where the sun is illuminating something about the moon. Virgo, obviously, health, healing, wellness, organization, you know, clarity. And yeah, it's in a sign that in conjuncts or quincunx your sign. So it can be a bit of a blind spot. So that means that change can come, but you may not see it coming. Now, the 8th house deals with psychological things, death, transformation, taxes, joint resources. But I think that this is going to be about maybe your psychological health, your joint financial health. This can be about money that is coming from other people that you might work with, because Virgo can be about like work collaborators and like coworkers. And Mercury has connections for you with your 5th house. So Mercury is the ruler. It's in your 8th. It's retrograde. There's been something that's been reworked about your relationship with money and other people's resources. So maybe reviewing, you know, your spending habits with a partner. Maybe you're reevaluating a matter pertaining to insurance, or something in regards to money that you give your children, right? Mercury rules your 5th. This can also be about reevaluating your investments, or something involving like debt or money owed. So, setting a new moon here is about being like, I want to go deeper, right? I want to go deeper into the details. I want to clean this up. I want to heal this in some way. You will be experiencing during this particular new moon a trine to Uranus, which is very positive for you, Aquarius, because Uranus is your modern day ruler. So he's shaking things up in your fourth house, saying there needs to be change and innovation and maybe some restlessness and some like surprises when it comes to your home and your family. These things that are taking place are prompting you and kind of throwing you into situations where you're like, okay, I need to make some kind of shift or tweak to eighth house matters. Mercury here could quite literally be an assistant, a helper, somebody who helps you process a document. It might be somebody who's helping you set up an estate or maybe a will, maybe working through the details of a financial arrangement, a tax matter, something like that is getting kind of worked out. And it may relate quite literally to home and family and property. So if there is something getting reworked behind the scenes with a kid or with like an assistant of some kind, a helper with these matters, it's helping you make the necessary changes that you need to better protect yourself, your partner, or your home resources. I think looking at this also, a lot of this is the trine to Pluto. So it's going to be about preparing for something that may need to be, completed before end of life, or it may need to be completed before you change your job. For some of you guys, it might mean like it's like a tax issue or an insurance issue. So the trines to Pluto might represent, well, I want to change my job, but how am I going to make sure that I'm getting insurance and how does it impact my family, that kind of stuff. Anyway, this will make sense because the Mercury retrograde's been in this part of the skies now for a couple of weeks by the time that we have this particular new moon. You want to embrace change. You want to be open to talking about things that may make you kind of squirrely, kind of squirmy. There can be a lot of going through documents and having to have intimate conversations about the things that you do not really want to talk about, but you need to be able to kind of better gain clarity. Let's see what the cards say for you. It's definitely involving finances of some kind because all of this is in opposition to Saturn, which is your traditional ruler, and Neptune in your second house. And if you reflect on what's happened over the last couple weeks, there's been a lot of learning to not be so flexible or so willing or gullible to just hand money over or resources or support to another person. Saturn and Neptune have been in your second house. So there's been a lot of I don't want to spend money on this thing, but things come up in the eighth house and other people go, well, I need you to loan me something, or can I borrow something, or, can you pay me back? And there is a lot of going back and forth, trying to make other people learn how to be more resourceful. So you're not the one having to kind of pick up the check. All right. So let's see what the cards say for you. The card that I get for you is the Page of Cups. So this can be a water sign. So it can be about a Pisces, a Cancer, or a Scorpio that kind of come through. It can also be about a younger person. The Page of Cups is idealistic. They are dreamers. They're sensitive. They can be innocent. It can be about working with the inner child or a younger kid. Curiosity, possibilities, and this is also just being empathic and emotional, sensitive, intuitive. I wonder, because Mercury is in this house, the eighth house, which has that connection to kind of Scorpio energies, are you going back and forth and having a conversation with somebody about what they are saying? Hey, you need to be prepared for this thing, prepare for this thing, and they're letting you know about taking care of a tax issue before it becomes a problem, or filing a document or signing something because they're tapping into something intuitively. That's possible. I also feel like this is about finding ways to get in touch with your inner emotions. And if something is off, I think of a new moon in the eighth house or retrograde in the eighth house. It's if it's time to go back and see a doctor, to see a healer, to connect with a therapist, these are wonderful times to do this because the eighth house can be about working through some kind of crisis. And working with somebody who may be very tapped in and very compassionate and assisting you through this process of learning to let something go or accept something for the way that it is. Okay? Good luck to you, my Aquarians. And last but not least, we have our Pisces and Pisces rising. You're going to be experiencing a new moon that will be taking place in the sign of Virgo, and this is your opposite sign. It's in your 7th house of partners, other people, relationships, clients, but also this can be about, just like your marketplace and what you have for services. So if you're wanting to sell something new, if you work for yourself, if you're single and you're wanting to meet someone, if you're in an existing relationship and you want to kind of start over and have a clean slate, all of these things are possible with a new moon in the 7th house. Mercury is the ruler. It's been going retrograde in this house, so likely you've already seen a situation where you're going back and forth with a partner, maybe a client, maybe a spouse, maybe you're back and forth in a relationship and you're just wanting to be like, which way is this going to fall? Are we doing the damn thing or not? Likely you have felt probably a little confused with somebody else's communication style, that they're kind of like back and forth, hot and cold, or they're constantly flippant and they can't quite make up their mind. So a retrograde in the 7th can represent somebody getting ready to tell you something and then they hold back, or getting ready to make a decision and then they hold back. Mercury also is connected to your 4th house, so it can represent a relationship matter revolving around a living situation or a relationship matter with family. And you guys can be going back and forth about where you're living, how you're living, if you're going or if you're staying. So that can come up here as well. What I like about this is that there are going to be trines happening to both Jupiter and Uranus. And so I think you've heard me say in previous videos, anything is possible as long as you're communicating and opening up that line of communication. So make the phone call, send the text message, schedule the meeting, be like, no, let's talk about it. And the new moon is about saying, let's start over, let's start new, fresh. Eventually this will trine Uranus. And I do feel like something you're going to see with this new moon is that there might be shocking conversations and surprises that are coming from other people and things that they're saying that they're relaying to you that kind of catch you off guard. Good or bad, right? Uranus rules your 12th house, so it's things that you don't see coming. A retrograde in your 7th house is a good time to talk to a therapist, connect to an astrologer, get some kind of feedback from someone if you can't quite see clearly, especially if you're feeling like you're having a hard time making a decision yourself and sticking to it. Now, what I think is like down the road, right, in 6 months when you have a full moon here, and you have Mercury and Saturn and the Sun all sitting in the 1st house, you have to kind of level with yourself right now. If something is a problem in an existing relationship or with a partner or with a roommate, a sibling, a coworker, that can be a problem 6 months from now, as much as I hate to say that. When Mercury is in its fall and you've got Saturn and the Sun here, you might realize and go like, I'm still not getting what I need, or we're still not communicating efficiently. And like now it's having an impact on me, like physically or mentally, or it's impacting, like my situation with where I'm living. If you're considering making a move right now with these transits and you're kind of like going back and forth with a partner, you better make damn sure that like this is something that is going to work, that you can communicate effectively, and this is what you really want. If you're single, okay, it's a good time to be like, what do I want from relationships? What do other people have to offer me? How can I connect better with others? And start setting intentions mentally and by writing out your intentions, because the trines to your 3rd house indicate if you write it, you could bring them in. You might be more willing to chat people up in your local environment when you're kind of hanging out, going around town and doing some stuff. Maybe even connecting with people online, right? Or just somewhere short outside of your house. So if you were to go on a road trip or just kind of go to the other side of town, you might connect with other people that you wouldn't usually, and that might open up the likelihood of being able to be in a relationship. I'm using all of these words because there's so much action relating to partnerships in your 7th house. So there's going to be a lot going on with other people. But the truth is this: you really do more or less hold the keys here. You decide, you're the gatekeeper, who comes into your life and who doesn't. How do you want to connect with people? Do you like the way that people are connecting with you? If not, make a decision. Saturn and Neptune are retrograde in your 1st house right now. So you might oscillate between being like, I'm completely shut off, or I have no boundaries. And you might notice that it kind of goes back and forth. The key is to work with the Saturn sextile Jupiter and be open and communicate your needs efficiently, but also by the same token, be very honest with other people about what your non-negotiables are and what will or will not work for you. Lay it all out there and make it very clear, because you don't want to be in a situation 6 months from now where you're like, oh, I should have just gotten out 6 months ago, or I should have just told them how I was feeling 6 months ago, because it can be a continuation, right, of that particular energy. And then finally, the new moon, which is also slightly in a trine to Pluto in your 11th house, is really great for getting the point across in regards to what your goals are, right? Pluto in the 11th, when it comes to long-term planning with relationships. Friends might come in and give you excellent advice. You might have support from other people who are willing to kind of hear you out and discuss with you, you know, what they think, if it might be beneficial, and giving you some feedback about what to sell and how to tweak your, you know, potential services, or what you have to offer, or what's going to be most marketable, right? But it's a lot of relational things. So I'm leaning on the positive changes. Change can happen suddenly through honest and insightful conversations, but I also know that this is going to be something that you're going to have to probably wait until, you know, Mercury comes into an opposition with Neptune. And there's a lot of saying what you need to say, but seeing if people really walk the walk and talk the talk as we're getting down the line, getting closer into October. Okay, let's see what the cards say for you, my Pisces. The card that I got for you is the Queen of Swords. So this can be bringing up for you a Gemini, a Libra, or an Aquarius. In particular, this is a female energy, so it can be women, but it can also be about being more attentive and nurturing the mental kind of connection that you have, communicating. And also the Queen of Swords is very honest about her thoughts and her opinions and her feelings. She creates that boundary with the sword, right? So this says independent, intelligent, honest, fair, clear boundaries, direct communication, constructive criticism, objective, and logical. I love this. I think this is so important right now for not allowing other people to give you the runaround with all these energies in your seventh house. Not letting other people project onto you with the oppositions to Neptune. And I think it's also about just getting the words out there and just like letting people know like what you have to offer, what you think, what you're saying. Communication is going to get a lot easier when the retrograde ends just after this particular new moon. But I want you to watch and just observe over the next month after this new moon what changes in relationships and whether or not you are letting other people know, okay, I like this, I don't like this. And when you give them that feedback, when you give them that kind of course correction, is it actually improving the relationship, or are you seeing that there's like more kind of challenge coming from other people? And is it leading you in the direction of realizing that that might not be a potential path forward in terms of being together, okay? Okay, guys, well, that's going to be it for me. I hope you enjoy this particular new moon in Virgo. Don't forget to leave me your comments below. I'd love to hear how it manifests for you. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. And especially if you're a first-time viewer, drop me a comment below and say hello. And if you guys want to connect with me, you can find me on Twitter at BTVAstro. Or you can head over to my website to book a personalized session or check out any of my courses, my products. There's all kinds of cool stuff there at beyondtheveiltarot.com. I hope you guys enjoy this new moon, and I will see all of you very soon. Take care.